March 1998, Grove City, Ohio. Inventor Stanley Meyer runs out of a restaurant, screaming, "They poisoned me!" He collapses in the parking lot and dies minutes later. He was 57 years old. The official cause of death? Brain aneurysm? The timing? He had just refused a $1 billion buyout offer from Arab investors to suppress his invention. What invention? Stanley Meyer built a car that ran on water, not hydrogen extracted from water through conventional electrolysis, which requires more energy than it produces. Meyer claimed to have developed a fuel cell that split water into hydrogen and oxygen using far less energy than traditional methods. His process allegedly used resonant frequencies to break the molecular bonds, similar to how Rife's frequency generator worked on cells. He called it the water fuel cell. Meyer demonstrated his dune buggy, powered entirely by water, multiple times. He drove it. Reporters rode in it. Engineers examined it. It worked. On camera. Repeatedly. He received patents for his technology. Not one, not two, but multiple patents from the U.S. Patent Office. Patent number 5,149,407. Patent number 4,936,961. Patent number 4,826,581. The U.S. Patent Office doesn't grant patents to devices that violate the laws of physics. They examine the claims, they verify the mechanisms, and they granted Meyer multiple patents. In 1996, Meyer demonstrated his technology to the United States Department of Defense and Department of Energy. According to Meyer, they were impressed, but ultimately did nothing. Then came the lawsuits. Investors claimed fraud. An Ohio court ruled that Meyer's claims were false and ordered him to repay investors. But the court never examined the technology itself. They ruled on contractual grounds, not scientific merit. 2 years later, Meyer was dead. Now, the mainstream narrative says Meyer's water fuel cell was pseudoscience, that it violated thermodynamics, that it was a scam, and maybe it was. But here's what the narrative doesn't explain. Why did the patents get approved? Why did multiple engineers who examined the device report that it worked? Why did video footage show the dune buggy operating? And most importantly, who poisoned him? Because Meyer was convinced he was poisoned, and he died minutes after making that claim. After his death, all of Meyer's equipment and research notes were seized. His laboratory was cleared out. The water fuel cell prototype disappeared. His patents expired. The technology was never replicated or debunked through rigorous scientific testing. It was simply erased. Today, water fuel cells are considered impossible. The idea is laughed at, but the patents still exist in public records. The videos still exist on the internet, and Stanley Meyer still died screaming that they poisoned him. Discovery number 2, erased, moving to discovery 3. 1934, San Diego, California. Dr. Raymond Rife, a brilliant microscope inventor and researcher, claims to have found a cure for cancer. Not a treatment. A cure. Most cancer cure claims are fraudulent. I know that. You know that. The medical establishment knows that. So when Rife made his announcement, skepticism was understandable. But here's what made this different. Rife didn't use drugs or surgery. He used frequencies. Rife had developed the most powerful microscope in the world at that time. While electron microscopes wouldn't be invented for another decade, Rife's optical microscope could magnify objects 60,000 times. He could see living viruses in their natural state, something that was considered impossible. Using this microscope, Rife identified what he called the cancer virus. He observed that cancer cells had a specific electromagnetic signature, and he theorized that if you could generate the exact resonant frequency of that signature, you could destroy the cancer cells without harming healthy tissue. Think of it like an opera singer shattering a wine glass with their voice. The glass has a specific resonant frequency. Hit that frequency with enough power, and the glass vibrates itself apart. Everything else in the room remains untouched. Rife built a machine, the Rife frequency generator. It would emit electromagnetic frequencies tuned to specific pathogens. And in 1934, he conducted a clinical study. 16 terminal cancer patients, given weeks to live, treated with Rife's frequency machine for 3 months. 14 of them were declared clinically cured by a committee of doctors and pathologists from the University of Southern California. 14 out of 16 terminal cases cured. The study was supervised by Dr. Milbank Johnson, who documented everything. The results were verified by multiple physicians. This wasn't anecdotal evidence. This was documented medical research with terminal patients who should have died but didn't. Now, if this had happened today, there would be immediate follow-up studies. Major medical institutions would replicate the research. If confirmed, it would revolutionize cancer treatment globally. But that's not what happened. In 1939, Dr. Milbank Johnson organized a press conference to announce the findings to the world. He died the night before. The official cause? Heart attack. He was in perfect health the day before. All his research notes documenting the cancer study vanished. Every copy, every record, gone. Rife's laboratory was broken into repeatedly. Equipment was vandalized and destroyed. Legal battles drained his resources. Investors suddenly pulled funding. The medical establishment turned on him. The American Medical Association declared his work fraudulent, though they never conducted their own study to verify or debunk it. They simply declared it impossible. By 1946, Rife's frequency generators were confiscated and destroyed. The microscope he used to observe the cancer virus was dismantled. His research was erased from medical journals. Rife died in 1971, alone and discredited, claiming until the end that his cure worked. Now here's what disturbs me about this case. Modern research into frequency-based cancer treatment is now showing promise. Scientists at Arizona State University and other institutions have confirmed that electromagnetic frequencies can indeed destroy cancer cells. It's called resonant frequency therapy, and it's gaining legitimacy, which means Rife might have been right. 40 years too early. And someone made sure his discovery disappeared. Who benefited from suppressing a potential cancer cure? Follow the money. Cancer treatment is a multi-hundred-billion-dollar industry. A cure would collapse that entire economic model overnight. I'm not saying there was a conspiracy. I'm saying the evidence suggests powerful interests had a motive to prevent this discovery from reaching the public. And they succeeded. Discovery number 1. Erased. 1954. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration obtains a court injunction against Dr. Wilhelm Reich, ordering him to stop all research and destroy his equipment. Not just stop selling products, destroy everything. All research materials, all equipment, all books. Reich refuses. He's arrested, sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for contempt of court. He dies in prison in November 1957. The official cause? Heart failure. He was 60 years old. But the truly disturbing part? The FDA burned his books, not banned them. Burned them, in America, in the 1950s. 6 tons of Reich's publications were incinerated in New York City incinerators. This is documented. It happened. What did Wilhelm Reich discover that warranted book burning? Reich was a student of Sigmund Freud, a trained psychoanalyst and a respected researcher. In the 1930s and 40s, he claimed to have discovered a form of primordial cosmic energy he called Orgone. He said this energy permeated everything, was responsible for weather patterns, could accumulate in organic materials, and had healing properties. Sounds like pseudoscience, right? That's what the medical establishment said. But Reich wasn't just theorizing, he built devices. The Orgone accumulator, a box constructed from alternating layers of organic material like wood and inorganic metal. The theory was that organic materials absorbed orgone energy while metal reflected it inward, creating a concentration effect. Reich claimed that sitting in an orgone accumulator could treat various illnesses, accelerate healing, and improve overall health. He conducted studies showing improvement in cancer patients, though these studies weren't controlled in the way modern medicine demands. But here's where it gets interesting. Reich also claimed orgone energy could be seen and measured. He developed techniques for detecting it. He photographed what he claimed was orgone energy, and other researchers reported seeing similar phenomena. Albert Einstein examined Reich's work in 1941. Einstein tested one of Reich's organ accumulators in his own home. He initially observed a temperature difference inside the box, which intrigued him. But Einstein later attributed this to convection currents and rejected the organ theory. That rejection effectively killed mainstream scientific interest in Reich's work. The FDA's case against Reich wasn't based on scientific testing of his claims. It was based on the assertion that orgone energy didn't exist. Therefore, any device claiming to use it was fraudulent by definition. They didn't test the accumulators. They declared them ineffective because the underlying theory was rejected. The court order demanded Reich stop all research, hand over all equipment, and destroy all literature mentioning orgone energy. Reich saw this as scientific censorship and refused. That's when they imprisoned him, and burned his books, and erased his research from mainstream science. Now here's what disturbs me during this investigation. Modern research into bioelectromagnetic fields has found that the human body does emit measurable energy fields. We know this. MRI machines detect it. EEG machines measure electrical activity. There are measurable energy phenomena around living organisms. Reich might have been measuring something real, but he lacked the technology and theoretical framework to explain it properly. Instead of engaging with his research scientifically, the establishment criminalized it and destroyed all evidence. Why? Perhaps because Reich's theories challenged pharmaceutical and medical industry business models. If orgone accumulators actually helped some patients, even through placebo effect, that's a problem for industries selling expensive treatments. Or perhaps the government wanted to suppress research into energy phenomena they were studying for military purposes. Remember, this was the Cold War era. Anything related to unknown energy fields had potential weapons applications. Whatever the reason, Wilhelm Reich died in prison. His books were burned, his research was erased. And today, mentioning organ energy gets you laughed out of any scientific conference. Discovery number 3. Erased. 1904. Nikola Tesla is at the peak of his career. He's invented AC current, the Tesla coil, radio technology, and countless other breakthroughs. J.P. Morgan has funded his most ambitious project, Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. The official purpose? Wireless telecommunications. The real purpose, according to Tesla's notes? Wireless transmission of electrical power, free energy for the entire world. Tesla believed he could harness the Earth's ionosphere as a giant electrical conductor. By tapping into the natural electrical potential between the ground and upper atmosphere, he theorized he could transmit electricity wirelessly to receivers anywhere on the planet. No power lines, no fuel costs, no electric bills, just free, unlimited energy transmitted through the air. In 1901, he wrote to J.P. Morgan describing his vision. When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain. We shall be able to communicate instantly, regardless of distance. Not only this, but we shall see and hear one another, and the instruments will be amazingly simple. Morgan was intrigued. He invested $150,000, roughly $4 million in today's money. Construction began on Wardenclyffe Tower, a 187-foot-tall transmission tower designed to broadcast both information and electrical power globally. Then, in 1903, Guglielmo Marconi successfully transmitted a radio signal across the Atlantic Ocean. Marconi's system was primitive compared to Tesla's vision, but it worked. And crucially, it was commercially viable. You could charge money for radio transmission. J.P. Morgan realized a problem. Tesla's system, if it worked, would make electricity free. Free electricity means no profits, no control, no way to meter usage and charge consumers. Morgan cut funding. Immediately, Tesla scrambled for new investors. Everyone refused. The project was abandoned. Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished in 1917. The copper and equipment were sold for scrap to pay Tesla's debts. Tesla died in 1943, alone in a New York hotel room, deeply in debt. The FBI raided his room immediately after his death and confiscated all his research papers. They claimed it was for national security. Most of those papers have never been released publicly. What was in those papers? Theories on wireless energy transmission, designs for energy devices, calculations showing how to harness atmospheric electricity, knowledge that could have transformed human civilization, all classified, all hidden, all erased. Now, the mainstream explanation is that Tesla's wireless power system wouldn't have worked, that the physics don't allow efficient long-range power transmission through the atmosphere, that his vision was impossible. But is that true? Or is that what we're told because allowing free energy would collapse the entire global energy industry? Modern wireless power transmission does work. We have wireless charging for phones. We have radio frequency power transmission over short distances. The technology exists, but it's limited, inefficient, and certainly not free. What if Tesla actually solved these problems? What if his confiscated research contained breakthroughs that would threaten trillions of dollars in energy infrastructure? We'll never know, because his research was seized, classified, and erased from public knowledge. The tower that could have powered the world was demolished and forgotten. Discovery number 4. Erased. Moving to Discovery 5. 1996. Paul Pantone, a Utah inventor, patents a device called the GEET fuel processor. Patent number 5,794,601. It's a simple modification to internal combustion engines that allegedly allows them to run on almost any liquid fuel with dramatically reduced emissions. Water, vegetable oil, paint thinner, even contaminated waste liquid. According to Pantone and hundreds of replicators worldwide, the GEET system could run engines on fuels that normally wouldn't combust while producing nearly zero emissions. The device consists of a tube containing a rod positioned within a magnetic field through which fuel vapor passes before entering the engine. The design is deceptively simple. No complex electronics, no expensive components, just basic physics and fluid dynamics. Pantone demonstrated his GEET engine modification on lawnmowers, generators, and vehicles. He showed it running on 80% water mixed with 20% gasoline. The emissions coming out of the exhaust were reportedly cleaner than the air going into the intake. Multiple inventors replicated his design and confirmed similar results. Videos on the internet show dozens of GEET modified engines running on unconventional fuels. These aren't animations or CGI. These are real engines running on camera. In 2005, the Utah Department of Environmental Quality tested a GEET-equipped truck. The emissions were so low that the testing equipment couldn't detect them. The testers thought their equipment was broken. It wasn't. The truck was producing virtually no emissions. If the GEET system works as claimed, the implications are staggering. Cars that run on waste products, engines that don't pollute, energy independence for developing nations. A collapse of the petroleum industry's stranglehold on transportation. So what happened? Why isn't every vehicle on Earth using this technology? In 2005, Paul Pantone was arrested. The charges? Securities fraud for taking investments in his GEET company. But here's the strange part. Pantone was declared mentally incompetent and sent to a psychiatric facility. Not prison, a psychiatric hospital. He was forcibly medicated and held for years. His supporters claimed he was silenced because his invention threatened oil interests. The state claimed he was genuinely mentally ill and had defrauded investors. Pantone was eventually released in 2011 after a public campaign to free him. He maintained that his invention worked and that he was imprisoned to suppress the technology. Today, the GEET system is considered by mainstream science to be pseudoscience that violates thermodynamics. Yet the patents exist. The replications exist. The test results from the Utah DEQ exist. But you won't find GEET systems in commercial vehicles. You won't find research funding for the technology. It's been marginalized, ridiculed, and effectively erased from serious consideration. Discovery number 5. Suppressed and erased. 1979. Vancouver, Canada. John Hutchison, an eccentric inventor and electrical experimenter, claims to have accidentally discovered a phenomenon that defies conventional physics. He calls it the Hutchison effect. The claims are extraordinary. Objects levitating, metal bending and breaking without applied force, dissimilar materials fusing together, objects becoming transparent, all allegedly caused by interactions between high-voltage electromagnetic fields and other forces Hutchison couldn't fully explain. Hutchison filmed many of his experiments. The videos show metal bars twisting and breaking, objects rising off tables, cannonballs and other heavy items floating in midair, wood and metal fusing at the molecular level. These aren't smooth animations or obvious special effects. They're shaky home videos showing strange phenomena occurring in a cluttered laboratory. Critics immediately called it a hoax. Hutchison insisted it was real. Here's where it gets interesting. Multiple scientists and military personnel witnessed the Hutchison effect firsthand. Representatives from the U.S. Army visited his laboratory. Officials from the German military observed demonstrations. Scientists from McDonnell Douglas examined his setup. Some were convinced it was real. Others suspected trickery, but couldn't identify how it was done. None could replicate the effect independently. In 1983, Canadian authorities raided Hutchison's laboratory and confiscated his equipment, citing concerns about radio frequency interference with aircraft navigation. The equipment was returned, but Hutchison claimed it had been photographed and reverse-engineered. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, Hutchison continued demonstrating his experiments to scientists, military officials, and journalists. The U.S. military allegedly conducted classified research, trying to replicate and weaponize the Hutchison effect. No official results have ever been published. The mainstream scientific community has largely dismissed the Hutchison effect as a hoax or misinterpretation of known phenomena. Skeptics point out that Hutchison has never been able to produce the effect reliably or on demand. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That inconsistency suggests trickery, but if it was a hoax, it was a remarkably elaborate one maintained across decades, fooling military scientists and independent observers. An alternative explanation. What if Hutchison accidentally discovered a real phenomenon but didn't understand it well enough to control it? What if the interaction of his random collection of electrical equipment created conditions that mainstream physics doesn't account for? There are theoretical frameworks that might explain some of what Hutchison claimed. Zero-point energy fluctuations, Casimir effect amplification, interactions between electromagnetic fields that produce unexpected mechanical forces. None of these are understood well enough to deliberately engineer them. But what if Hutchison's chaotic experimental setup accidentally tapped into these phenomena? If the Hutchison effect is real, even partially, the implications would be revolutionary. Anti-gravity, material transmutation, energy from the vacuum, all the things governments would absolutely want to classify and suppress. After multiple laboratory confiscations and legal battles, Hutchison largely withdrew from public demonstrations. His work is now considered fringe science. The videos remain on the internet, unexplained. Was it an elaborate hoax? A genuine discovery he couldn't replicate reliably? Or a real phenomenon that was deliberately suppressed because it was too dangerous to let the public understand? Discovery number 6. Erased, confiscated, and marginalized. Moving to Discovery 7. March 23, 1989. University of Utah. Two electrochemists, Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Ponce, hold a press conference announcing they've achieved nuclear fusion at room temperature. Not in a multi-billion-dollar reactor. Not at millions of degrees. At room temperature, in a simple electrochemical cell on a laboratory bench. Cold fusion. If real, it would be the most important energy discovery in human history. Clean, abundant, nearly limitless energy from seawater. No radiation. No dangerous byproducts. Just heat energy produced from the fusion of hydrogen atoms. Fleischmann and Ponce described their experiment. They used palladium electrodes in heavy water, applying an electrical current. Over time, the palladium absorbed deuterium from the heavy water. Then, inexplicably, The electrochemical cell began producing excess heat, far more heat than any chemical reaction could account for, and they detected neutrons and tritium, signatures of nuclear fusion. The announcement sent shockwaves through the scientific community. If confirmed, Fleischmann and Pons would revolutionize energy production and win Nobel Prizes. Universities worldwide rushed to replicate the experiment, and many did replicate it. Researchers in Italy, India, Japan, and multiple American institutions reported excess heat in similar setups. Not all experiments succeeded, but enough did to suggest something real was happening. But the physics community was skeptical. Hot fusion requires temperatures of millions of degrees to overcome the electromagnetic repulsion between atomic nuclei. How could fusion occur at room temperature? It violated everything they understood about nuclear physics. Within months, prominent physicists held press conferences declaring cold fusion impossible. The American Physical Society organized a session specifically to debunk Fleischmann and Pons. Several high-profile replication attempts failed. The media turned on the discovery. Cold fusion became synonymous with pathological science and fraud. Fleischmann and Pons were humiliated, their reputations destroyed. The University of Utah closed their laboratory. Funding evaporated. The field was declared dead. But here's what the mainstream narrative doesn't mention. Research into cold fusion never actually stopped. It just went underground. The U.S. Navy continued studying cold fusion for decades after the public disgrace. They published papers reporting excess heat and nuclear products. The Defense Intelligence Agency funded cold fusion research, classified as alternative energy. Japan, Italy, and other countries maintained active cold fusion programs. In 2011, NASA scientists published research validating the Fleischmann-Pons effect, though they called it low-energy nuclear reactions to avoid the tainted cold fusion label. In 2020, Google funded a multi-year cold fusion research project with leading physicists. The results were mixed but showed that under specific conditions, excess heat does occur in certain electrochemical systems. The mechanism remains unexplained, so cold fusion wasn't debunked. It was suppressed through ridicule and funding denial. The phenomenon exists. Hundreds of peer-reviewed papers confirm excess heat in similar experiments. But because it doesn't fit current nuclear physics models, it's dismissed. Why suppress cold fusion? Because it threatens the entire energy industry. Oil, gas, coal, nuclear fission all become obsolete if cold fusion is real and scalable. We're talking about trillions of dollars in infrastructure and profits made worthless overnight. Governments and corporations have a strong incentive to prevent cold fusion from becoming viable. Better to ridicule it into non-existence than allow an energy revolution that would destabilize global power structures. Fleischmann died in 2012. Pons lives in France, still insisting his discovery was real. And cold fusion research continues quietly, funded by governments and private companies who know something real is there, even if they don't fully understand it yet. Discovery number 7, suppressed through ridicule and defunding. 1923. Homestead, Florida. A 5-foot-tall Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalnin begins single-handedly building a massive stone structure. He works only at night. He allows no one to watch. And over the next 28 years, he quarries, carves, transports, and erects over 1,100 tons of coral rock. Coral Castle still stands today. Massive stone blocks weighing up to 30 tons each, stacked and balanced with precision that rivals ancient megalithic sites. No mortar, no heavy machinery, no work crew. Just one man, working alone, at night, with tools he made himself. The engineering is extraordinary. A 9-ton gate balanced so perfectly it can be pushed open with one finger. Stone blocks carved so precisely that you can't slide a razor blade between them. An obelisk weighing 28 tons standing upright. Stone furniture, including chairs, tables, and beds, all carved from multi-ton coral blocks. When asked how he moved such massive stones alone, Leedskalnin claimed to know the secrets of the pyramids. He said he understood the principles of anti-gravity and magnetism that ancient builders used. he never explained further. A few people claim to have seen him working. Their descriptions are bizarre. They reported seeing him float the coral blocks through the air. They said he would touch the stones, and they would move as if weightless. They described strange humming sounds and magnetic phenomena around his work site. Leedskalnin never revealed his methods. When researchers examined his property after his death in 1951, they found unusual equipment. Homemade magnetic devices, chains and tripods arranged in peculiar configurations, tools that didn't match known construction methods. The mainstream explanation is that Leedskalnin used conventional engineering techniques like levers, pulleys, and clever balance. Maybe he did, but that doesn't explain why no one ever saw him use these techniques. It doesn't explain how a 5-foot, 100-pound man could single-handedly position 30-ton stones with no modern equipment. There are theories. Some believe Leedskalnin discovered a way to manipulate electromagnetic fields to reduce gravity's effect on matter. Others think he used sound resonance to levitate the stones, similar to claims about acoustic levitation in ancient Egypt and Tibet. What we know for certain, Leedskalnin studied magnetism obsessively. He wrote pamphlets on magnetic current that present unconventional ideas about how electricity and magnetism work. His writing is cryptic, filled with unusual terminology and concepts that don't align with standard physics. He claimed that magnetism was the key to everything, that conventional science misunderstood magnetic phenomena, that the secrets of moving massive stones were magnetic in nature. If Leedskalnin did discover an unconventional method of manipulating gravity or mass using magnetism, he took that secret to his grave. No blueprints, no explicit instructions, just a massive stone monument that shouldn't exist, built by one man who claimed to know secrets lost to history. After his death, researchers and engineers have tried to replicate his construction methods using period-appropriate technology. No one has succeeded in demonstrating how he could have accomplished what he did alone. Coral Castle stands as physical evidence of a discovery that was never documented, never shared, and died with its creator. Whatever Leedskalnin knew, it was erased when he died. Discovery number 8, lost with the inventor. Moving to the final 2 discoveries. 1936. Near Baghdad, Iraq, German archaeologist Wilhelm König discovers clay jars buried in Parthian ruins dating to around 200 BC. The jars contain copper cylinders with iron rods inserted inside them. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, they generate electrical voltage. These are batteries. 2,000-year-old batteries. They shouldn't exist. The Parthian Empire had no electrical theory, no understanding of current or voltage, no use for electricity. Yet they created functioning galvanic cells using copper, iron, and acid that can power small lights or electroplate objects. König proposed that these batteries were used for electroplating gold onto silver objects, a technique that produces a higher quality finish than other ancient methods. When researchers replicated the Baghdad battery design and filled it with grape juice, it produced nearly 1 volt of electricity, enough to electroplate metals. The mainstream archaeological community largely dismissed the discovery. They claimed the jars were storage vessels and any electrical properties were coincidental. But replications consistently show these devices function as batteries. That's not coincidence. If the Parthians had electricity, even primitive electricity, what else did ancient civilizations know that we've forgotten? Were these batteries independently invented, or did the Parthians inherit electrical knowledge from an even older culture? The Baghdad batteries were stored in the National Museum of Iraq. In 2003, during the Iraq War, the museum was looted. Many artifacts were stolen or destroyed. The Baghdad batteries were among them. Most are now lost or scattered. Physical evidence of ancient electrical technology, erased through war and chaos. Whether by accident or design, one of history's most mysterious discoveries is now gone. Discovery number 9, looted and lost. 1933. Austria. Forester and naturalist Victor Schauberger proposes a revolutionary concept: implosion instead of explosion. Modern technology, he argued, is based on explosive force. Internal combustion engines explode fuel. We blast rock with dynamite. We split atoms in nuclear explosions. But nature, Schoberger observed, works through implosion. Water spirals and vortexes. Tornadoes spin inward. Seeds germinate through implosive growth. What if we could harness implosive forces for energy and propulsion? Schoberger designed devices based on this principle: water vortex generators, spiral pipes that cooled water while increasing its energy, engines that allegedly ran on implosive vacuum rather than explosive combustion, and most remarkably, flying machines that used implosion to generate lift. During World War II, the Nazis became interested in Schoberger's work. He was forced to develop technologies for the German military. According to some accounts, he designed a disc-shaped aircraft that used vortex propulsion. The craft allegedly flew successfully in 1945, reaching altitudes and speeds that conventional aircraft couldn't match. After the war, Schoberger tried to continue his research, but American and Soviet intelligence both sought his knowledge. In 1958, he traveled to the United States, where he was allegedly coerced into signing over all his patents and research to an American company. The contract prohibited him from discussing his work ever again. Schoberger returned to Austria broken and defeated. He died 5 days after returning home, claiming he had been robbed of his life's work. All his research notes and prototypes were seized by the American company and disappeared from public record. Today, implosion technology is not taught in engineering schools. Schoberger's theories are considered fringe science, but researchers who study his work find sophisticated understanding of fluid dynamics and vortex mechanics that was decades ahead of his time. If Schoberger's implosion engines and vortex aircraft worked, they would revolutionize transportation and energy production. Engines with no moving parts, aircraft with no conventional propulsion, energy systems based on natural harmonics rather than destructive force. All of that knowledge was seized, classified, and erased from public access. Schoberger died believing his discoveries would never benefit humanity because powerful interests had suppressed them. Discovery number 10: seized and classified.